following program is the third Tuesday of the month Waupaca City Council meeting.
Welcome everybody to our annual organizational meeting. It is 6 o'clock and I'll call this meeting to order. And we're going to start with the oaths of office of the newly elected officials. So I'll turn this over to Barb.
All right. You could stand and raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Colin Dykstra,
Having been elected to the position of alderperson for the city of Waupaca, do affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of Wisconsin and all county and municipal ordinances, and will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of said office to the best of my abilities under the penalties of perjury.
I do.
All right, so Barb, put on your desk your form to sign, and make sure you get that back to her, please, tonight. And so, sorry, the people that were standing were Scott and Paul, and Corey Nagel is our newest member of City Council. So, Corey, welcome tonight. Good luck to you. And Colin? And Colin was the other one. Okay. All right. So even though we have a couple of empty seats tonight, Dimitri is coming back from vacation, so he will not be here tonight. And I think Henry is on virtually, but I'm not sure.
He's planning on it. He's not on now, but he should be on soon.
So we'll have 9 of the 10 in attendance tonight, we think. So with that, we have some more things that we need to do during the organizational meeting. So let's start, Barb, by you taking roll.
Okay. Brian Smith.
Here.
Colin Dykstra.
Here.
Lori Chestnut.
Here.
Paul Hagan.
Here.
Henry Velliker. Scott Perchatsky.
Here.
Dave Peterson.
Here.
Paul Mayo.
Here.
Dimitri Martin. Corey Nagel.
Here.
Eric Olson.
Here.
8 present. We have a quorum.
Thanks, Barb. You have an agenda, which is fairly short, but we do have some items that we have to take care of tonight. So we would need a motion to approve the agenda as printed.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Peterson, second by Olson, that we approve the agenda as printed. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against, say no. Motion carried. At this time, then, we will open it up for nominations for council president. Is there anybody that you would like to nominate as council president?
I would like to nominate Paul Mayo.
Okay, are there any other nominations? Any other nominations? All right, I'll declare that the nominations are closed, and let's just do a voice vote electing Paul Mayo, as long as he agrees to it, as council president. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against, say no. Paul, congratulations. All right, and of course, during the organizational meeting, this is where we appoint council members, but also people at large to our committees and boards, and that is done by the council itself. So that is turned over to our council president, Paul Mayo.
Thanks, Mayor.
Get to the script here. All right, these are the mayor's appointments to boards and committees and commissions. For Board of Review, Lori Chestnut and Barb Nowak. Board of Appeals, Brian Gildenband, Lentry Vance, Paul Hagan. City Plan Commission, Brian Smith, Eric Olson, Dana Gustke, Angela Lesage.
And to remember, Paul, that this, we have one council member that has to be voted on at this meeting right now, and so that's what you're seeing
Okay,
next
that's,
there.
okay. Mayor's nomination for alderperson to serve on City Planning Commission, Henry Veliker. And I need a motion and a second to approve this nomination.
Move to approve?
Second.
Moved by Olson, second by Chestnut to approve the nomination of Henry Veliker as council member for City Plan Commission. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. All right. The mayor's appointment to the following boards and commissions and committees are as follows. Library Board, Lil Anna, Legal Youth Representative, Noel Iskin, Alternate Youth Representative, Corey Nagel, and Colin Dykstra as the alternate. Parks and Recreation Board, Alyssa Durant, Youth Representative, Lily Lewis, Youth Representative, Lillian Legal as alternate Youth Representative, Eric Olson, Dimitri Martin, Dana Gutski, and Lauren Fritz. Police and Fire Commission, Colin Dykstra. That's it. That. Airport Board, Noel Iskin, Youth Representative, Jeff Lang, and Shane Lehman as the Waupaca Foundry Representative. Community Development Authority, Brian Smith, Paul Mayo, Tracy Barron. Recycling District, Colin Dykstra, and Henry Veliker is the alternate. Waupaca Area Fire District, Brian Smith, Paul Hagan. Historic Preservation Commission, Lucas Soto, Youth Representative, Lori Chestnut, Claudia Kremzy, and Ashley Buck. WAHA Board of Directors, Colin Dykstra. Historical Society, Lori Chestnut. Joint Review Board, Dimitri Martin. East Central Planning Commission, Brian Smith, Aaron Jensen, alternate. Waupaca Area Convention Visitors Bureau Room Tax Board, Henry Veliker, Aaron Jensen. Waupaca Senior Advisory Board, Dave Peterson. Waupaca Area Arts and Cultural Network, Henry Veliker. Friends of Mirror and Shadow Lakes, Dimitri Martin. At this time, I need a motion and a second to approve the mayor's appointments to these committees, boards, and commissions.
Paul, before you take that motion, can I make one correction? I'm
sure.
sorry, I didn't catch my mistake here, but for the Waupaca Area Fire District, it should be the representative of the Waupaca Police Commission, so that would be Colin Dykstra instead of Paul Hagan.
Okay, all right,
And he's just the alternate,
okay,
okay?
all right. Yeah, with that correction, I need a motion and a second to approve the mayor's appointments.
So move.
Second?
Moved by Chestnut, second by Olson, to approve the mayor's appointments to the committees, boards, and commissions. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. The following are appointments to the Emergency Management Committee. Lucas Soto, Steve Delfos, Andy Carlin, Colin Dykstra, Audrey Rosine, Jerry Duman, Brian Holzell, Justin Behrens, Aaron Jensen, Josh Werner, and Ron Sari. The Public Engagement Committee for one-year terms. Lori Chestnut, Henry Veliker, Laura Colbert, Stephanie Reif, Aaron Jensen, Brogan Kenziora, Sue Abrahamson, Greg Groman, Brett Rodens, and a youth representative that is yet to be appointed. Personnel Committee. Aaron Jensen, Stephanie Reif, Caitlin Weirs, Justin Behrens, Paul Benchwall. Okay. Jeff Solmer, Tamara Jacket, Patsy Servey, Josh Werner, Jared Rakew, Lori Chestnut, Paul Mayo. Sewer and Water Utility Board. Scott Perchatsky, Paul Hagan, Dimitri Martin, Stephanie Reif, Ron Crowley as a citizen at large, Justin Behrens, and Miles Wenberg as a youth representative. At this time, I'd need a motion and a second to approve the mayor's appointments to the committees and boards I just mentioned.
And Paul, if you wouldn't mind, before we have that motion, this motion would be approval contingent upon the ordinance passing, all of these boards you just mentioned.
Okay. Okay, gotcha. With the contingency that Aaron just mentioned, I'd need a motion and a second.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Olson, second by Chestnut. The council approves the mayor's appointments to the committees and boards I just mentioned. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.
Thanks, Paul.
You're welcome, Mayor. Thank you.
Next up, actually, I just want to remind you, and Barb's going to send this out. She'll send out the complete list of all the members that are on these committees. These are just the committees that are the people that were appointed this year. Obviously, there are more members on these committees and boards that you're not seeing tonight, but these are just the ones that you appointed. Anything else for the good of the organizational meeting? We're looking for a motion to adjourn so we can go into our regular meeting then.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Hagan, second by Peterson, that we adjourn the organizational meeting until next April. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oops. Against, say no. Motion carried. All right, let's go into the regular agenda then. I'll call this meeting to order. It is April 18th, 2023, and it's 6:13 p.m., and I'll call this meeting to order. And as always, we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
He was sinking us. All right, Barb, and you want to read the clerk's open meeting statement for us?
This meeting and all meetings of the Common Council are open to the public. Proper notice has been posted and given to the media in accordance with Wisconsin state statutes, so the citizens may be aware of the time, place, and agenda of this meeting.
Thank you, Barb. And would you also take roll?
Brian Smith,
Here.
Colin Dykstra,
Here.
Lori Chestnut,
Here.
Paul Hagan,
Here.
Henry Veliker,
Here.
Scott Perchatsky,
Here.
Dave Peterson,
Here.
Paul Mayo,
Here.
Corey Nagel,
Here.
Eric Olson.
Here.
9 ayes, we have a quorum.
All right. Thanks, Barb. And as always, we're going to introduce the department heads at this time. So, Barb, why don't you start with that?
Barb Nowak, City Clerk.
Aaron Jensen, City Administrator.
Jared Rakew, Community and Economic Development.
Stephanie Reif, Finance Director.
Laura Colbert, Parks and Rec Director.
Brian Hosell, Chief of Police.
Josh Warner is in the back. He's our IT. And Justin Behrens is on remotely tonight. He's not feeling well. And Eric just walked out. Eric Bailey from the library, but he'll be back in a minute. Thanks, everybody, for introducing yourselves. All right, next up, we have the consent agenda. The consent agenda is where we take one motion for all of those items that are on the consent agenda, unless we have a council member or a staff member that would like to see any of those items moved to the regular agenda where we would discuss and vote on those individually. Would anybody like to see anything on the consent agenda moved from there to the regular agenda? If not, we're looking for a motion to approve all of those items that are on the consent agenda.
So move.
Motion by Chestnut.
Second.
Second by Peterson, that we approve the consent agenda as printed. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against, say no. Sorry, Henry. Motion carried. Should say it all.
Can you hear me, or
We can, Henry.
am I too loud?
No.
Okay, so thank you.
Why are you accused of being too loud?
Well, sometimes.
No, we can hear you fine. Thanks.
All right, thank you.
All right, next up, we have regular agenda. Barb, you have one amendment to that tonight.
Yes, under new business, B, Lindsay for the farmer's market was not able to attend, so we will bring this forward to the May 2nd council meeting.
All right, so go ahead and just cross off B then. Under nine, new business, 9B will not be tonight. Otherwise, the agenda is as printed, so we would need a motion to approve that.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Perchatsky, second by Chestnut, that we approve the regular agenda with that one change. Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against, say no. Motion carried. Okay, under non-agenda items and announcements, we have two proclamations that we have to read. First, one is the Arbor Day proclamation, which is on page 75 of your packet. And Laura, which one did you decide you were going to read? I was going to do the Earth Day. Okay, so Aaron, would you read the Arbor Day proclamation?
Sure. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees, and whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees, whenever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. And whereas Waupaca has been recognized as a Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation and desires to continue its tree planting ways. Now, therefore, Brian Smith, Mayor of the City of Waupaca, does hereby proclaim the 28th of April, 2023 as Arbor Day in the City of Waupaca, and he urges all citizens to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands and to support our city's urban forestry program. And further, he urges all citizens to plant trees and gladden the hearts and promote the well-being of present and future generations. Dated this 18th day of April, 2023.
Thanks, Aaron. So we read that, and we will place that on file. Next proclamation is actually Earth Day proclamation, and Laura has agreed to read that one.
In the early 1960s, Senator Gaylord Nelson of Wisconsin began a movement to highlight mounting environmental problems. Earth Day continues to promote environmental awareness and celebrate the limitless possibilities for all people to care for our land, air, rivers, lakes, and oceans. Earth Day is an international phenomenon observed in more than 180 countries spanning every continent. Individuals and communities come together with a unified purpose to address issues such as climate change, species extinction, managing growth, economics, and emerging technology. Whereas the City of Waupaca's lands, waters, air, and other natural resources should be protected and preserved at all costs. This goal of environmental sustainability is the legacy we wish to leave for those who follow us. And whereas the City of Waupaca supports and strengthens its commitment to the environment by working together to protect these natural resources is essential to the continued quality of life of the residents of the Badger State. And whereas the City of Waupaca recognizes the spirit of Earth Day as a global event that celebrates environmental achievements and raises awareness for environmental issues, and provides a unique opportunity for people across the state and nation to promote environmental stewardship by setting goals and taking actions to lessen the negative impact on the environment. Now, therefore, Mayor Brian Smith, on behalf of the City of Waupaca, does hereby proclaim April 22nd, 2023 as Earth Day and welcome the support of all residents in our quest to create a clean, green, and healthy Waupaca.
Thank you, Laura. Couldn't have said it better myself. Nice job. All right, and again, we'll just place that on file, but thank you for reading that. All right, next up, we actually have a couple of annual reports. You know that we had the Parks and Rec at our last meeting, and we'll start with the library's annual report. We have Eric, our library director, and Holly Olson is also here, the library board president. Welcome.
Thank you.
Eric, if you'd like to, I do have it on the screen here too, so I can page through it. Otherwise, you can run the show, whatever you prefer.
Fine.
All right.
Not sure what I'm grabbing, but it doesn't appear to be the right cord, so we're going to go with that.
All right, perfect.
All right, hi everyone. My name is Holly Olson. I'm the library board president, and Eric is actually going to take over a little bit at the end to talk about some of the finances. But we've had quite a great year at the library, namely getting a new director. So I just want to publicly commend Eric for his hard work over the last couple months. He's done a great job in this role and has worked really hard, so we're looking for good things from Eric. And then I also just want to publicly acknowledge Patsy Servey and Sue Abrahamson for their hard work as they worked for the interim directors. So you can see here that this is our values and our mission, and that is the keystone of the library, and it's central to everything. So when we evaluate the things that we're doing, our opportunities, we always look at the rubric. In the corner there, you can see a picture. That is a small token that our former director, Peg, left us. It says, "You belong," and it's in the library. Go ahead. So this is part of our circulation, and we circulated in our collection. There's the public has access to over 330,000 materials. And this is over 18,000 more than we had reported in the 2021 year. And that's an increase mostly between ebooks and audio ebooks. The children's department circulates STEM toys, games, and puzzles. And there's also a collection available of puzzles at the adult department. And we circulate laptops and Wi-Fi hotspots. This is something we want to bring to the council's attention. This is called Hoopla. It's one of our newest databases, and we added it in September 2021. It allows Waupaca card holders to access an additional 1.3 million items. That stood with over 900,000 items last year, so you can see that this is a growing collection. This includes ebooks, audio ebooks, and music, and it all is a substantial increase that is available. This chart represents our circulation, and you can see the drop is there the year of that's COVID started. The circulation of physical and digital items saw an increase from 2021 to 2022, as noted, and we are still very substantially below where we were pre-pandemic. That's about 80,000 items, and we'll talk about that on the next slide. Because we ask, where are those 80,000 items? What exactly are there? And you can see that they're, the red is actually the video, and then the blue is audio. So that's about 72% of the lost circulation is either from audiobooks or video recordings. And some of this is pandemic related, but this is the case where the pandemic just shed a light on this growing trend. These formats were on a decline due to streaming before the pandemic hit, and we will recapture some of this, but we're always looking to see where we can grow in our circulation. The drop in circulation, we just want to note, is typical across the other OWL's libraries, anywhere between about 20 and 40%. This is something that we are very fortunate to have within the OWL system. We share materials between the patrons in OWLs, and you can see that this is the amount of materials that we send out. We're trying to get this to be a one-to-one correlation, and it's almost there, but actually, Eric and I had quite the conversation about how we can promote our, have that closer, but this is just those numbers there. So next you can see some of the technology that's available at the library. We offer hotspots, laptops to go with the on-site computers. We know that the library is used as an information center to the community, and the internet is increasingly necessary for job applications, applying for benefits, Social Security, medical providers, shopping, filing taxes, and much more. So we think about the people that don't have internet access at their home or they aren't comfortable using technology. The library is a great place for those people to come. And we spend a lot of time helping community members get access to technology. So this is taking a look at some of the users and the visits. So as you can see, with an estimated population area of about 19,000, only about 40,000 people in the community have library cards. So we just want to encourage all of you to encourage all your neighbors to get out there and get library cards. Our users have increased over the last few years, but they're still not at the pre-pandemic stages. But we know that the library provides much more things than just books. Programming is one of the things that our library is known for, and it's impossible to talk about all the great things that our library does. So you can see there's programming for youth, there's programming for teens, and there's programming for adults. And we just want to commend the library staff on all the programs that are out in the community. Since the COVID, they have taken the programming out into the community, and they would like to continue that. So some of the things that have returned are Lunch and Learn, regular movie showings, Monopoly Day, and some joint efforts between the community. So these are some of the highlights from this past year, and as you can see, there's many things that we're very proud of. This was the first year that we did not have any health-related closings since 2019, so we're happy about that, and we're trying to work for moving to getting things back to normal. So next you can see these are some of the trends. Some of the library is very busy and continues to have a bright future ahead of it, and as it is an essential part of the community. The way that the library is used by patrons has changed with a shift in their priorities, but we need to continue to help the people of the Waupaca community. So next I'm going to turn it over to Eric, and he's going to talk a little bit more about some of the finances and where we are what we're thinking about our finances for the future.
Thank you, Holly. Thank you for your kind words. If I've gotten off to a good start, it's because we have a fantastic staff and a great board. So hopefully this is close enough. Okay. So I know the main goal of these annual reports is to highlight the successes of the past year. And we've certainly, at the library, had plenty of those. So at the risk of being more of a downer, though, I feel I do have a responsibility to provide an accurate update on the financial situation on the library in the closing section of the report. So the slides will focus on revenue and expenditures and the challenges and opportunities that they present for 2022 and beyond. And I would also add that I'm well aware that the library is far from the only department or city entity that's facing fiscal challenges, that the issue of community funding is not one that has had any easy answers. So our revenue and expenditure breakout charts should look pretty familiar. In terms of the breakout, percentage-wise, this is very typical for public libraries as far as how much is expended where. Library and building personnel make up the biggest chunk. In terms of any differences versus previous years, we continue to lean on the collections and programming budget lines and contracting those to make up the difference in terms of any revenue and expenditure differences, gaps that need to be made up. So those have continued to contract a bit. Moving on to revenues. So again, this is a chart that should look pretty familiar compared to the one from last year. I do want to highlight that 93% of the revenue for the library is from tax dollars. So that's the 52% from the city allocation divided between operating funds and building and facilities maintenance, and then the reimbursement from Waupaca County making up 41%. The 2% from Waupaca County is also an annual reimbursement. If you add that in, we're at 95% supported by tax dollars. And this is typical. In fact, it's comparatively actually a pretty good average. High 90s for this ratio is pretty common. There just aren't a lot of additional revenue sources that are readily available to libraries and that can add the sort of funds that would significantly change that ratio. So moving on, taking a look at revenue over time. So from 2016 to 2023, in 2016, total revenue was $829,517. Projected final operating revenue for 2022 was $824,116. So pretty close to the same across. County funding per state statute is a reimbursement for services. So when they provide us with an annual bit of funds, they're actually paying the library back for services provided 2 years prior based off of circulation and operational funds provided by the city, which sounds complicated. But it's every 2 years cost per circ looking back. So we had a nice bump in terms of support from the county for 2023 because they were looking back at 2020, which was a very weird year. So that cost per checkout ratio was atypical. Unfortunately, we don't get to keep that. So we're kind of bouncing back to a more normal level looking ahead to 2024. So the preliminary number for next year for that county reimbursement to us is $21,000 lower than it will have been for 2023. So that'll continue to be a projected number pending county discussion and final approval. But because the Waupaca County has agreed to, in using the formula as provided by the state, fund more than they have to, and to fund at a 100% level when they're only obligated by the state to pay 70%. It would be a number that really could only move downwards if it's going to move. So that is an update there. Moving on to fun with inflation, because inflation is a lot of fun. So looking at the decrease from 2016 to 2023, in reality, when you look at inflation from January 1st, 2016 to February 2023, According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, inflation over that time it stands at 26.98%. So, in terms of purchasing power, that takes the $829,000 that we've held pretty steady to in revenues from 2016 and reduces the value to $653,000. So, in addition to our friend inflation, library has some other financial challenges that we've been working on. We have increased demand for the same materials in multiple formats. What that means basically is that 20 years ago, if James Patterson put out a book, though realistically it would probably be 6 or 7 over the course of the year because it's James Patterson, we would get the book. In 2023, we'd get book, audiobook, maybe a playaway, an ebook and an e-audiobook, and probably have the ebook and e-audiobook available through multiple databases. So that spreads out the resources that we have available covering the same titles, which from a patron perspective is great because it connects people with the formats that are most useful to them, which is different from patron to patron. But from a cost perspective, you know, it's something that needs to be factored in terms of where we put funds. The set of services that we're asked to provide continues to get more diverse. I'm excited to say that we've been up to the challenge, though sometimes things are a bit unexpected. My favorite continues to be that this past year that we learned through a press conference down in Madison that for job centers that we're not going to be reopening, which includes the one in Waupaca, that we as a library got to be the job center. So that's one that we've leaned into. We're gathering together job resources, working to set up time to connect with folks that need to make use of those resources. So we've got a growing number of things like that where it's new services that community members are looking for. So, you know, in addition to that, we've had some challenges as far as the salary scale and being able to fill open positions over the last year. You know, with the cuts that we've had to make to collections budgets, had some challenges as far as keeping that ratio that Holly had mentioned on 1-to-1. So that's one that we're working on, making sure that we're loaning as many materials to the consortium as we are borrowing. And looking at the next slide there, you know, when you have financial challenges, there's some impacts as far as what you're doing. You know, I talked about the programming and collections challenges there. Obviously, when you have fewer fiscal resources, you're a bit less flexible. I would highlight with the having the staffing on there. We did it in not in a very loud or dramatic way, but we did decrease staffing hours at the end of 2022. What happened was that we weren't able to fill the position of programming and outreach coordinator. We just didn't have any applications from qualified individuals. So we worked with one of our on-staff all-stars, Molly Renke, who's in the position now and doing a fantastic job, and moved her up from a part-time to a full-time position as an internal candidate. Then we did not backfill that position. So we took a person 22 hours a week, made them full-time, and then dropped those hours using new efficiencies, working at the main desk, and some hours that we had gotten from cutting back some of our teen assistance hours in evenings where we didn't need the extra coverage to provide additional programming support. So all part of how we're continuing to work to be more efficient to cover expenses. We've had to delay some opportunities. The list is there. Some of those we've had some pretty significant demand for. And moving on then as far as opportunities. So what are our opportunities for addressing these challenges? The skinny version is evaluating what we do and how we do it, looking for ways to be more efficient with resources, and of course adding new revenue sources if and wherever possible. The big one, of course, being passport services. I'm hopeful that that will add a decent chunk of revenue to the budget. While I focused primarily on operating revenue in my presentation, I would be remiss if I didn't point out that this has not been a problem with covering implementation costs for new initiatives. Greg Groman is a legend among grant writers. I think we can all agree to that, and the Library Foundation does incredible work as well. So the challenge is often being able to cover ongoing expenses following implementation. So we got some help from the foundation, and we got a fantastic grant working through Greg to get the hotspots that we're able to loan out to the community. But once we had them, then we also needed to be sure that we could budget for the about $1,300 a year ongoing service to support those. So, looking ahead, we'll be working hard to address the gap between revenue needed for operations versus what is available. But early estimates show we've got a pretty big gap to close for 2024, so hopefully we'll be able to close that and without needing to, as I'm hoping to avoid, cuts to services, hours, staffing, or some combination thereof. So, moving on. Oh, we missed the goals. So these are the 4 goals as they were set by the library management team. We're aiming to improve outreach and engagement with the community, including with our new non-English speaking residents. We're making up a larger portion of our residency here in Waupaca. Working smarter using technology and outside-the-box thinking to find new efficiencies, advocacy to the community, using numbers and stories to tell the tale of successes and needs, and identifying and pursuing new revenue sources. So in conclusion, change continues to be the primary constant at the library. The pressures of the pandemic, where basically it was necessary for the library to reinvent its service model on the fly, as was the case for a lot of organizations, has shown that libraries are incredibly adaptable. And the usage of the library continues to diversify and grow, and we will continue to meet the needs of the community through responsible use of the funds entrusted to us by the taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Anybody have any questions or comments for either Eric or Holly? All right. Well, thank you very much for that annual report. Holly, thanks for coming tonight. All right, next up, we have the Police Department's annual report, and Brian, you want to do the introductions?
Yes, Jim Schultz is going to do that for us this evening. He's done it for us for a number of years. He's been on a commission for as long as I can remember being a member of the department.
Is it 25, Mayor?
At least.
Yeah, quarter of a century.
It was just yesterday. Yeah. Thanks, Jim. Thanks for coming tonight.
Okay. My name is James Schultz. I live on Foxfire Court in Waupaca, and for 25 years or so I've been a member of the Waupaca Police and Fire Commission. Thank you, Mayor Smith, Mr. Jensen, Ms. Nowak, members of the council, and fellow citizens here and at home. The report in front of you that you all have is an in-depth listing of crimes committed and cases solved. The numbers, however, do not tell the whole story about our police department. Waupaca PD is comprised of 18 sworn officers, 1 full-time civilian and 2 part-time civilian employees. We serve over 6,000 residents here in the city and support a service area of over 30,000 people within a 15-mile radius of Waupaca. And the one page I'm probably going to refer to is the page with our staff on it. Captain Benchall report shows this page. 5 of the people on this page aren't here anymore since 2022. The good news is one of them is Captain Helgeson retired. John Helgeson retired in December of 2022 to finish our year after 27 years of service. And we're happy and proud to say that Sergeant Paul Benchall was promoted to captain effective January 1st of this year to take over Captain Helgenson's duty. Paul has been with the department since 2011. And Officer Dan Wasrud at that time was promoted to sergeant to take over the duties formerly held by Paul Benchall. We prefer to promote from within, and we've been fortunate to be able to do that regularly. The last 2 years have been plagued with staffing issues. 2022 is no different. Our country has seen a significant reduction in law enforcement applicants, and agencies have had to find creative ways to adapt and fill the vacancies we have. So one of the ways that our police department adapted was by sponsoring a new hire, actually sending him to school at Fox Valley Tech. We paid him to go to school. In January of 2022, Officer Paul Jensen started training at Fox Valley Tech, and in May of 2022, Officer Jensen graduated #1 in his class, and now he is one of us. Waupaca Police Department was also happy to welcome back Jerry Allen as our administrative assistant. We lost her temporarily due to a devious, nefarious plot by a competing agency. But she couldn't stay away. Jerry comes back to us with all of her experience, a willingness to help the department with major projects, and a volunteering spirit for the special events we're involved in. That's all we're going to say about staff for right now. And if you want to follow along page by page, you'll be as confused as I was when I wrote this, because I'm not going to do it in order. Just fair warning. We got some new gear last year. In 2022, Sergeant Zuby's report in the annual report will show some new weaponry and the new technology in less lethal weapons. You might want to check those out. New cameras. These are very cool. They're around the community, and they help. They've already helped with stolen vehicles, missing persons, silver alerts, ADAM alerts, crime solution. They've already proven their value to the city, and you can find out more about those in the report. Our SWAT team, Sergeant Wasrud has prepared a report of the SWAT team's activities. In one of those incidents, I believe it was June, the less than lethal weapons figured prominently in the solution of a situation. Our involvement in the county SWAT team requires ongoing training, and several of our team members are certified instructors in a variety of police procedures. Moving to the investigations. When somebody calls the police, an investigation and determination of the type of crime, if any, is the first step. Assaults, sex offenses, child abuse, theft, occasional dead bodies. This is what greets a police officer when he or she responds to a call. The first impression that a caller gets from the responding officer is crucial in making the victim feel safe and establishing a level of trust with the investigating officer. Now, on those most sensitive crimes that require the most professional touch by our officers, I'm talking about sexual assault, domestic abuse, child abuse, things like this, we actually saw a slight decline last year. And we can only hope that that continues. Crimes against property, however, are up in almost every category. You'll look at the chart. In 2022, the Waupaca PD responded to 192 property-related calls for service. Now, all of our officers are trained to investigate property-related crimes. Now, usually these type of calls do not require an in-depth investigation. The facts are pretty clear. But occasionally, our officers are required to write search warrants or involve other agencies. Call the Department of Criminal Investigation or the State Crime Lab to get help. Fraud cases continue to be a large and growing part of the calls that we're seeing. Citizens are daily victimized to scams that attempt to intimidate or coerce money out of them. The FTC has data that shows that last year in this country, there were nearly 2.5 million fraud cases, and that those consumers lost just shy of $9 billion to crooks. The most commonly reported scams are imposters, people who call you on the phone and pretend to be somebody they are not, or online shopping scams. Be careful out there. In 2022, the Waupaca Police Department investigated 94 drug-related incidents, including 9 drug overdoses. Those drug investigations led to 79 felony charges, which include money laundering, weapons, as well as drug possession, and 49 misdemeanor charges that were all forwarded to the Waupaca DA for prosecution. Waupaca police continuing to investigate one fatal overdose here in the city, which apparently involved illicit drugs. And our designated drug investigator, as well as working with the department, is also involved in another 52 drug-related investigations, working with the Central Wisconsin Drug Task Force. Waupaca officers continue to use TrueNarc. This is a cool new piece of technology, and you'll see it explained in the report. It's a handheld narcotics analyzer that can scan right through plastic or glass, and it identifies illicit drugs without even opening the container. Last year, our officers had over 40 positive hits for meth, fentanyl, cocaine, and other drugs. And it's high-tech stuff. Sergeant Rodens wrote that report, and I hope you'll take a look at it. It is still safe to cross the street pretty much anywhere in Waupaca. However, last year, our officers responded to 236 traffic crashes in the city. We made 128 traffic stops. We issued just over 1,000 warnings and just under 1,000 citations. You'll see the complete breakdown of traffic stops and such in Sergeant Wasserud's report. The final 10 pages of the report show a breakdown of crimes and results by type and shows a 4-year comparison. I'm happy to report that compared to most of the country, we continue to live in a safe and secure community. Now, something that does not show up in this report is a troubling trend in the way we are perceived and treated. In the last few years, it has somehow become acceptable to disrespect and even attack police officers while they're in the act of doing their job. Being spit on or physically assaulted by the witnesses or by the actual people we're trying to help is becoming more common. The medical costs associated with these attacks are also mounting. Emergency room visits to have potentially hazardous materials washed out of your eyes because somebody spit in your face or threw something at you. Downtime following surgery, resulting in defending yourself from an attack. This puts additional strain on the department and on the officers who are already in a stress-filled occupation. It impacts attracting new recruits to law enforcement and retaining lifelong officers who now question the validity of their continued service. Another issue that is touched on only lightly in this annual report is the ongoing challenge of competing with nearby agencies who have shown that they are willing to pay 30 or 40% more wages than we can. I mean, we have to compete with the Valley, Wausau, cities that have budgets much larger than our own. Now, Chief Holzell and Captain Helgeson did an exemplary job of preparing for this situation, and they found ways to keep our department staffed with the finest law enforcement officers available. 2022 was a good year for us that way, but the problem isn't going away. We recently lost 2 more officers to higher paying departments. Thankfully, Chief Hozell and now Captain Benchall were aware of this and in time and got us out in front of the situation and solved it before it became a problem. However, there's going to be a next time and a next. And on behalf of the Police Commission, I would urge you, members of the council, to start planning for your response to this problem sooner rather than later. City of Waupaca Police Department and its employees believe that the best way to serve a community is to be active in that community, both on duty and off. And that's why our officers and staff are coaching youth sports. They help with high school athletics. They play on local teams. They sit on local boards. And they help with a variety of nonprofit fundraisers. A few of our members take it to a higher level. We have 2 of our officers are on the Waupaca Fire Department. One is a member of the Fire Department's Women's Auxiliary, and we also have 1 active National Guard member. You're going to see us doing Donuts with a Cop, 4th of July parade and fireworks. If you haven't seen it, Sergeant Zuby's amazing presentation is called From First on the Scene to Next of Kin. And I'm not going to try to explain it here, but do yourself a favor, look into it, or if you can attend the presentation, do it. There's Adopt a Family, Shop with a Cop, Battle of the Badges, baseball, Halloween on Main Street. We're here for you, and we're here with you. Now, Chief Hozell has asked me to say that the Waupaca Police Department recognizes and appreciates the support we get from the mayor, from the city council, and from the Waupaca Police and Fire Commission. Thank you. And thank you for your attention. If you have any questions, I will do my best to address them, and I'm sure Chief Hozell will help me.
Thank you, Jim. Anybody have any questions or comments? Again, thank you for coming tonight. We appreciate it. Chief Hozell, thank you for the report. All right, let's go to public input. This is for non-agenda items. If there's anybody in the audience or anybody in the room here that would like to give us some public input on non-agenda items, please step up to the podium, give your name and address, and limit your time at the podium to 3 minutes or less. Any non-agenda items? All right, let's go to community department head reports then. And the first one tonight is actually Mitch Swenson, who's representing the Waupaca Chamber of Commerce Convention and Visitors Bureau for the Waupaca Arts and Cultural Network. Hi, Mitch.
Hi. Thank you, Mayor and staff and council. Excuse me. We're multiple organizations, so I'm going to kind of jump around quite a bit because we all overlap in our duties at the Chamber and the Convention and Visitor Bureau. We have a number of events that we're involved with, both on the Chamber and the CVB side. We have the golf outing, the Chamber golf outing coming up the first Monday in June, and that's a fundraiser for high school scholarships and such. We have Strawberry Fest in June 17th. We have the 4th of July celebration. The Wine Walk, we don't have a date set for that yet, but that'll be in September. I was able to participate with that last September, and it was really quite an interesting to be part of that and talk to people that come and stay in town for the weekend and shop and in and out, and they think it's great, and they love the beautiful Main Street area, and something that everyone should be proud of to highlight and to folks from out of town. The Chain of Lakes Blues Festival coming up October 6th and 7th out at the Indian Crossing Casino, and we're also proud to be part of the Halloween on Main event that's headed up by the Parks and Rec Department. And we look forward to partnering with them again on that. Some other things we've been working on, back in 2018, 2019, we had the branding initiative and the wayfinding signage stuff going on, and worked with RDG on that, but then 2020 hit and kind of put a stop on everything, but with the help of Jared from the economic department here and some of our staff, we've kind of brought that back again, and actually Terry Schultz is out at the Farmington annual meeting tonight talking about the wayfinding signage. So we're looking to get going and working on bringing the collaboration of our outer townships and the city, the chain area, with better wayfinding signage options. So it's something, and I don't know, Jared, if there's anything, I mean, you want to add to that, or?
No, I think the wayfinding branding that we had created that really incorporates the city as well as the townships. We may not be one entity, but we are a bad word, but we are a metro area. We are a community, all together. We all play off of each other. The Chain of Lakes is a great natural resource that we have available to us, and the city has a great downtown and shopping array for those that visit the Chain of Lakes, as well as that live here. So I think it's a great branding initiative that we're trying to carry out, and super excited to see it come to fruition.
Thank you. In terms of marketing our area, we still proudly produce a visitor guide for the area, and that's really still a high demand piece. But we also have been working with Compulse Sinclair Digital in doing search engine marketing and digital ads and retargeting and stuff. And there's a lot of stuff involved with all of that. But the neat thing is when people are searching on things, we pay to have certain keywords and phrases out there that pull them back to our websites and pages and stuff here. And we've been impressed with the hits and things that we've been getting on that. And some of that will be shared more in our quarterly reports as we go down the road here. So another thing that the CVB board works on is tourism development grants for the area, and that's funded from room tax dollars. We do a spring and a fall cycle on that, and we've had a number of applications for the spring, and we'll be taking those forward to our CVB board meeting next week, and look forward to helping a number of events and projects happen with those dollars. A couple other things in terms of promoting the community. As you know, we did the Discover Wisconsin from the Chain to Main program. A number of businesses and organizations, including the city of Waupaca, were part of basically underwriting that program or that episode. It's gone over very well, and Discover Wisconsin, even though we only paid for 2 episodes, they're going to air it a 3rd time at no extra charge because it's just such a feel-good episode about our area. And then we also did a Mad Dog and Merrill Midwest Grilling show last year, and that has now hit, except this turn page here, that has now hit 35 states and 140 television markets and over 160 streaming and on-demand channels. The Mad Dog and Merrill show that we did, we featured a lot of food and beverage products from the Waupaca area. So that was a great episode too. And then some other things like, I guess complimentary TV type stuff. We were able to get BZ Consortium connected with 2 TV stations, and BZ Consortium in town here is an importer of spirits and wines, and they have their product, which you may have seen, the Wine of the Sea, that has been approved for sale in the United States, and that wine is aged 100 feet below the Adriatic Sea, and then it is imported here. And the only business in the United States that's authorized to sell that product is right here in Waupaca. So that's something to be proud of, and it says it right on their label. On a side note, next Tuesday evening at Par 4 Resort is the Chamber's Business After 5, and that will be hosted by BZ Consortium. And as city representatives, you are invited because you are also a member of the chamber. And then the other thing is with our chamber membership, chamber membership member investors, every year we gain a few, we lose a few, but I find it intriguing that the last few that have become members are from out of town. We have a little bar in Iola that joined, and we have Treehouse or Storm Foods in Manawa that has joined. We have H&S Protection Systems out of Stevens Point that has joined. So it's kind of nice that they're seeing the value of Waupaca and collaborating with the Waupaca Chamber of Commerce on membership and the different programs we have to offer. So that's it. Any questions?
Thanks, Mitch. Appreciate that. Council, if you don't mind, I think this happened last year too, to tell you the truth, but Mitch does have an item under new business, and if you don't mind, if we could just move that up. It's a reoccurring event, and as far as street closures and stuff like that. So, Mitch, do you all right with that, Council? This would be something that you have to vote on, but, so under new business 9A, it has to do with the Waupaca Area Convention and Visitors Bureau request for street closures for Strawberry Fest, June 16th and 17th, 2023, and July 4th celebration. Mitch, anything you want to add? Any changes that you have?
No, that would be the ask would be what's printed there. So.
Okay. All right. Anybody have any questions about either one of those events this year? That was on. So that's on page 82 of your packet. If you're jumping around a little bit to see where it is. Scott, do you have a question, or did you just?
No, I'm
okay.
just.
All right. Anybody like to make a motion that we approve these street closures?
I would make a motion to approve the street closures.
Motion by Hagan. Second by Peterson, that we approve the street closures for the Waupaca Area Convention and Visitors Bureau request for Strawberry Fest on June 16th and 17th, and for July 4th celebration. Any discussion? Barbara, call the roll.
Paul Hagan,
Aye.
Scott Perchatsky,
Aye.
Paul Mayo,
Aye.
Corey Nagel,
Aye.
Eric Olson,
Aye.
Colin Dykstra,
Aye.
Lori Chestnut,
Aye.
Dave Peterson,
Aye.
Henry Veliker. Did he leave?
He's gone.
Okay. 8 ayes, motion carried.
All right. Thank you. Mitch, thanks for coming
Okay.
tonight.
Thank
Thanks
you
your
for
presentation.
the great partnership we have with the city and the chamber and CVB. We appreciate that.
Thank you. All right, next up then we have department head reports. Eric, I know you talked about last year and your things that your goals for the future, but you have things that are going on right now, so let's hear it.
Absolutely. All right, a few quick updates. So the renovation of the library's exhibit room continues. The new rails for hanging things along the walls have been installed. Many thanks to Jake Waller with Public Works, who handled that installation for us. So the new furniture in the exhibit room has arrived. Looks fantastic. It's a big improvement over what we had. And the old wood furniture we were able to sell to interested folks. So that was great. New exhibit is up on April 10th, and that is 30 years of Rotary. If you happen to be a Rotarian, you probably already know that on April 26th at 7 p.m. There will be a reception to launch the exhibit. If you haven't checked it out yet, I encourage you to do so. The outgoing exhibit, the one that just ended, was the Youth Art Month exhibit, which we had a fantastic turnout for. We had 3,831 visits, which is excellent. We had a lot of new faces that came into the building to check out the exhibit. Want to offer special thanks to Laura Reynolds from the Waupaca Arts Hub, who worked with us bringing preschool art opportunities in during our Youth Art Month for our story time families. Liz Kinnear, our exhibit room coordinator, has lined up some great programs for the summer focused on prairies and solar energy. First exhibit of the summer will be Hidden Prairie, which is a high-quality hands-on exhibit from the University of Nebraska State Museum, and will be the first folks to host that exhibit, which is very exciting. Liz is also working with the installers of the new City Hall / library solar panels, putting together exhibits centered around those, as well as some solar energy programming. In terms of bouncing back, we continue to get busier over time. March was the second busiest month that we've had since the start of the pandemic, which is pretty good since March is not usually one of our busier months. Circulation being up, and also in particular a lot of foot traffic. Selected a book for community read, that is Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. Copies of the book will be arriving shortly, and I encourage everybody to consider picking up a copy. We'll have lots on hand, thanks to a donation from the Library Foundation. So we are, with the applications that we received, doing some interviews, hoping to fill our open library assistant job opening. Fingers crossed we'll be able to get someone into that position soon. It'd be good to have that filled and get ourselves closer to being full staffed. We did have an upgrade to our BadgerNet connection that happened this last month. AT&T installed a second new BadgerNet network into the building, which was the first step to adding additional bandwidth to our library's internet service capability. This is part of an agreement between the state of Wisconsin and AT&T to provide continued fiber data services through the state's BadgerNet network. And we have been partnering on some programming around the new children's community garden that's going in behind the old Riverside School. We hopefully, it sounds like we'll be able to get some of the produce that will be grown there for our little free pantry at the library. In terms of upcoming programming, I've got a big one coming up, the third grade Environmental Learning Day at Eco Park, which is set for the flower full moon on Friday, May 5th, which is a collaboration with area schools and the Park and Rec Department. As part of that, we're going to be installing a new little free library at the park and asking students to bring a book to share. So, on that note, I think that's all the items that I have marked to cover for this evening for the City Council. I'm sure you're probably tired of hearing me talk at this point, so I'll leave it at that.
No.
Yes. I'm tired of hearing me talk.
Anybody have any questions or comments? Thank you, Eric, for that. Very informative. Let's go to community development. Jared?
Thank you very much, Mayor. So some things we got going on. So we continue our downtown partnership meetings. It's been a really great group to work with, working on a lot of good things like additional Main Street events, downtown guides, additional focuses for our downtown. So, been a really great program. A lot is, I think, going to come out of it. As with many programs, it's always slow to get started. Get everything in order and get organized. But I think the group will really take off here this year, and hopefully we can do a lot more next. But still would like to do a lot this year. So, great group to continue working with. 223 Division Street is the St. Mary's site over by Park and Rec. As we had previously noted, and I think most of us know, there's a proposal for a multifamily development on that parcel. You may see some activity out there as the asbestos abatement group is out there right now, company, and they are doing some asbestos abatement. The general deconstruction has not started for that structure yet, so as we continue on, I'm sure we will see more and more activity. As Mitch had mentioned in his report, continue to work with the Chamber on the wayfinding signage. We're also looking at some alternative options for relogoing the city vehicles. Some more to come on that. Continuing through the code revisions. I guess the one big item, which actually we're going to cover in one of the agenda items tonight, would be flowers. Working on some potential donor opportunities for those, but I think I will wait to talk about that until we get to that item. I guess the other item would be the sculpture in the front lawn. Many, I'm sure, have seen it already. I know there have been some mixed reviews, but I want to thank the Foundry as well as the T-Mobile Hometown Grant, as they were very instrumental in donations as well as building the sculpture. So no city funds were used to purchase that, just purely grants, and then time donated through the Foundry, materials, things like that. So great partnership we have with them that they're able to do things like that for us. And, fortunate us, Greg got us a great grant to get that sculpture. So awesome. But yeah, besides that, we're just continuing our normal operations, and the building season is upon us. So building permits are going to start to ramp up.
Thank you, Jared. Scott, you have some?
This is probably for Aaron and Jared here. Concerning the St. Mary's site, I see they're deconstructing and doing their asbestos, and I suspect that will continue. Now, in the absence of a development agreement with this potential developer, explain maybe to the council how expenses will be paid to these people that are deconstructing, or how is that going to work out?
Yeah, thanks, Scott. So anything that's happening on that site right now is the developer's responsibility. The city is not in an agreement to give anything towards that project. Okay. Having said that, we do expect a formal ask to come forward for a development agreement. I actually just sent an email to the developers this morning, who are also the site owners, just telling them that, hey, just a reminder, there is a shot clock on that, and that is June 1st. So right now, likely we'd be looking at like a May 16th council meeting if they come forward with that. But I have not heard back, and but I do expect to. So, and as a council member, I would expect to have that conversation on May 16th.
I guess my concern was if something falls through, there's still going to be a bill to be paid, but he's already somehow agreed to pay the...
We don't, Scott, we don't own the property. It's not our property. It's their property.
Oh, okay.
We don't own it. Whatever happens there, it belongs to them.
Okay.
Yep.
Right.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. Yeah, Colin, go ahead.
Jared, you mentioned the mixed reviews on the sculpture that was added. I'm going to assume that you're referring to some of the reviews that were on Facebook as it was originally posted, but is there something else?
No, it was mainly those, and the one I actually just kind of wanted to address was a lot of the comments were regarding that city funds were being used to purchase this, and It wasn't. It was all donated.
That was going to be my point. Grants, is that if that was the only review, that I think the sculpture itself is terrific. The city didn't use our taxpayer funding to do it, and I think that's the only negative review I saw anywhere. I don't know if anybody saw anything else differently, but So anyway, I guess the point is that we got to make sure to keep that information out. I guess we all knew that, but this public didn't, and now we do have that information out. But anyway.
No, very, very good point, Colin.
Yeah, thank you, Colin.
I got a quick question about that. Is that thing like cemented down, or how do they have that thing secured to the? There's cement underneath it, right?
There is cement underneath, and then they bore holes, and there's some rebar that connects both the sculpture, and then it's epoxied in
All right,
through
so
that
there's
rebar.
no way I can push that thing over, right?
We can have a contest.
Can you just see somebody out there now pushing it? Yeah. Wow. Okay, anybody else? All right, let's go over to finance. Hi, Steph.
Hello, thank you. Mine sounds a little redundant, but we're still wrapping up the audit. They were on site last week, Wednesday, for their last on-site visit. It's been awesome working with them. I can't say enough good things about the audit team. They've been extremely helpful, very patient. We've done a lot of things in the finance department just to add efficiencies, add new processes that just were needed in general. But we all were exhausted by the time they were done, but had a great time that they were here helping us. So we don't expect that audit report this month, but we are pushing to get it next month. So we'll just hope for the best. I know that the audit team is working on county audits for the next few months, so we're just gonna see what we can do to get it from them very quickly. Going on to the next, all the quarter reports are completed. Just doing the room tax reports on the DOR. The first draw request for the CDBG grant was submitted, and the semi-annual reports were completed for that. We did get our shared taxi van, and that should be delivered over to Brown Cab likely later this week and put into service very soon. We did have our first set of quarterly budget meetings with the department heads. Awesome feedback from that. We got a lot of things accomplished. I think everybody feels pretty good knowing where they stand with their budget right now and just having transparency on their funds. It was a good meeting. I'm sad to say we had to cancel our April Wellness Committee event. That was scheduled. It was going to be at South Park, cleaning up garbage in recognition of Earth Day. But due to the weather that we've received this week, we chose to push that off until a warmer date. So we'll keep everybody in the loop on that. And if you are able to and would like to join us, we'd love to have you. It's just trying to keep our parks clean and encourage everybody to do their part. So that's it. Any questions?
Thanks, Steph. Questions, comments for Steph? Thank you. Justin, are you able?
I believe I am.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. My report is shown on page 26 and 27 of the packet. And starting as usual in wastewater, our facility management plan is well underway. We visited our top two users in the city, which was the Foundry and Gusmers, to review their process, discuss what their future plans were, and then obviously from there we can project into the future. Both those meetings went very well. We have a first draft of the report that was reviewed by staff, and tomorrow we have a meeting to go over that with Strand Associates, the consultant we hired. And then from there, just continue to develop and get this plan ready for present to council here this fall. Street side, believe it or not, March was extremely snowy. Almost every week we had a major snow event of over 3 to 4 inches. The big one of 11 was right before spring break. And you guys battled through it pretty hard, and we thank the community for being patient with us as we try to get that out of your way. The benches on Main Street, I don't know if people have noticed, but the first set when we first built Main Street was totally donated and put together by the Foundry, and we helped set those out there. And then over the winter, this past winter, they weathered quite a bit. So we took them in and refinished them. And then we also received about 24 more the metal ends for the benches. So the street guys went ahead and built about another dozen. So we have twice as many benches downtown, and they just look fabulous. So if you haven't seen them yet, go check them out and take a load off. Water side, our water main project is nearly complete. So with that, we replaced a bunch of 4-inch water main on Harding Street, abandoned some other 4-inch main on Royalton Street, and then installed a looping line on Michigan, which of course supports the future building of our public works facility, but then also improves our stability of our system in the Royalton area west of Churchill Street. Speaking of the new facility, we have a public meeting or open house meeting scheduled for this Friday, so 4/21 in Library Meeting Room A. So that's in the basement from 9:30 to 2:30, and it's just going to be an open house. So I'll be there. We'll have some of our other representatives there from Myron, Barrientos, and even some other staff members. And it's just going to have a bunch of information. Anybody from the public is more than welcome to show up, ask questions if you want. If you don't, you can just be nosy. And those are the times that we'll be there. City Hall, so the solar project, we're getting kind of the administrative stuff out of the way. And we actually had our roofers show up today and get started. So we have a project rolling over from last year to replace a section on the PD roof, but then also the shingled section on City Hall, which I believe we talked at the last council meeting. The flat section of City Hall was replaced just a few years ago. The shingled section is original, and we're replacing that now before we get the solar panels set. So that's all I got, Mayor. I'll open up to questions.
All right. Justin, thank you. Any questions? All right, you're up in a little bit here, so.
Okay.
All right, next up, Parks and Rec, Laura.
Thank you. We, as mentioned, just wanted to say a huge thank you to our prior high school students who are on the Parks and Rec board. They did a fantastic job, and they're both headed to UW-Madison next year, so best of luck to them. Lakeman Field. We have the brochures done, and we are having a meeting on Friday to create a fundraising plan. And just want to really reiterate that at this point we are only going after replacing the lights, the infield, and getting a new sound system. So we are not going after the $2 million plan or the almost $2 million plan. We are going to be raising about $300,000, and the city has $175,000 allocated in the capital improvement plan. March was another very busy month for Parks and Rec. We've been super busy creating or getting in all of the applications for the dozens of open positions that we have in the summertime for all of our parks crew and concessions and umps and refs and all that fun stuff. And we've also been having a lot of baseball and softball tryouts at the rec center, so we've been keeping really busy with that. I'd really want to thank Steph and Kate for their HR assistance with hiring all of the new people, because this is going to really streamline the process and get everybody in the right budget line item, and it's going to be great. I have all the MOUs ready for the townships, and I have actually scheduled times to go out to all 3 townships to talk about Parks and Rec with them and the new programs we have and our existing programs, and to discuss our numbers. We are going to change the Eco Park boardwalk slightly. They're going to come out 2 weeks later than originally planned, which is fine. They want to get a smaller project underway with their new WISCOR crew before they come out and tackle the giant boardwalk out at Eco Park. So it's just going to be done a few weeks later than originally planned. In our program guide, we have the children's garden, but come to find out, FoodWise is going to be taking that over, which is okay because they're going to be doing it free of charge for our community members and really highlighting community members that could use the vegetables. As you see here, our rec center meeting room had a little makeover, which was almost free of charge with donated artwork and time of painting, which was very nice. Sandy Abrahamson did that on the side. And thank you again for the approval for the lawnmower. That is, we are acquiring that. And I just want to highlight that our parks crew did an incredible job re-siding and re-roofing the 2 sheds out at Swan Park that were in dire need of enhancements. As you can see on the community events there, we've got a lot going on. I did want to really highlight that May 5th, 3rd grade conservation day. It's going to be brand new that we're bringing out to Eco Park. I'm thrilled to be working with the library on that. And we are really actually working with all 3rd graders across Waupaca. We've even brought in the Christian Academy to come to that, which is really exciting. And I want to also reiterate the May 8th, a Day Without Childcare event that we're having at the Waupaca Middle School Auditorium. We have the $75,000 Dream Up grant, and it's really come to everybody's attention through this grant how much of a dire need we are for equitable and affordable health care within the community and how much of a wait list there is. And so this is going to be a community-wide program, and we're really asking for community leaders to come out, because the more we have this as part of our conversation, the more change we can see with childcare in our community. So if you have time, it is 6:30 to 8. I think I've been giving out some wrong information, saying 6 to 8. It's 6:30 to 8 at the Waupaca Middle School Auditorium. If you're open that night, please come out. And then I added, since I won't be able to report to you beforehand, May 10th, we're having an Eco Park planning meeting at Eco Park at 5 p.m. If you're interested in discussing anything about Eco Park, come on out to Eco Park at 5 o'clock on May 10th.
All right. Laura, thank you. Any questions or comments for Laura? All right, let's go PD. Chief.
Thank you, Mayor. Our report can be found on page 30. This Saturday is going to be our annual Drug Take-Back Day. We've been doing this for a number of years, and it's going to be open in the police department lobby from 10 to 2. And people can bring in any unused medication that they have, but one of the big things that people that they forget about that they can bring in is even pet medications. Those medications are also being abused. So it's really important that if anybody has those items, to bring them into the police department. They can bring in the e-cigarettes with the batteries pulled. They can get rid of those. And what we're finding is the water levels are getting less and less with the traces of all the medications being flushed into the systems, but they're still showing up in our lakes and our rivers and everything else. So it's really important to take be aggressive and get rid of those medications that aren't being used. So we'll be there from 10 to 2, no questions asked. And if people want to pre-package those items, they can just dump them in a Ziploc bag and bring that Ziploc bag in and drop it in a box, and they'll be good to go. So that'll be again this Saturday. We had a pretty busy month this last month. We had 580 calls for service. Some of our biggest calls or highlighted calls were we had 5 OWI arrests, but one of them was a 12th offense OWI. So that person was obviously arrested. And then one of the big investigations that we had is we had a suspicious fire a few months ago in the trailer court that we were working on that was suspicious. Both Sergeant Zuby and Detective Sergeant Rodens did an excellent job with that investigation. They were able to get confessions from the individuals that were involved with that, and they're awaiting charges at the district attorney's office. And then we did have an officer get injured down at the hospital fighting with somebody that was down there. And then we also had one overdose where fentanyl was detected. So, you know, you hear in the news the talk about fentanyl and all these different drugs. They are here in our community. And Tom Grant, who is our drug investigator, has been very active in trying to reduce what those numbers are, but we still have some of those overdoses. So we're working to find out where that actually came from. You know, unfortunately, you see in our report, we did have resignation letters, but the positive part of that is we did recently hire, for anybody that's been around during the last week, you may have seen Pete Krager, who's one of our new officers. Pete had worked for the Waupaca County Sheriff's Department for 10 years and then 10 years with the Green Bay Police Department. So he is one of our new officers, 20 years of experience that has come to us, and we're going to utilize the knowledge and skills that he has, and we're very happy he's with our department. And we do have a conditional offer to another individual, and he should be starting on May 1st, pending a couple tests that are coming back. That's all that I have. If there's any questions.
Thanks, Chief. Anybody else have any questions or comments? All right, let's go over to IT. Josh.
Well, if my math's right, you've been listening to 80 minutes of straight reports. So I'm going to give the shortest one, and the only word I want to get out is electronics recycling this Friday, 10:30 till 1 at Swan Park, and the fullest of details on the city website.
Well, thank you, Josh. Anybody have any questions of Josh? Keep him sitting here for a while? No, okay. All right, thanks. And don't forget that, he said it kind of quickly, but if you do have some old electronics that you want to get rid of, this is a good way to get rid of them. And they go to a good cause. So let's go to Barb.
Thank you, Mayor. So we had the spring election on April 4th, and my report for that is on page 114 and 115 of the packet, report number 1620. We had a 49% turnout with 1,568 voters. We did send out 395 absentees, which 267 came back. It was our first election with the Badger books for voting by automatic district, and it seemed to go really well. They could go to any line, so there wasn't long lines. They didn't have to worry about which line to stand in and have to stand in another one if they got in the wrong line, so that worked really well. Continue to hear great things about the Badger books, so I appreciate them being able to purchase those. And later this month, I'll be sending out the notices for all the licenses that are renewing for June 30th, renewing for July 1st. And that's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Barb. Any questions for Barb? Comments? All right, let's go to Aaron.
Thank you, Mayor Smith. Council members, my report was uploaded to the packet today. I'm going to just I'll take a page out of Josh's book, I suppose, touch on just a couple things. One is, you'll see, welcome, Mr. Nagel, by the way. Glad to have you here. And I do want to mention one thing. I sent out a council member orientation packet to Corey. I'm also going to send it to all of council members because I think it's just a good reminder of a lot of things from a council business standpoint. You will see some pages in there with Corey's schedule for orientation meetings with department heads. Ignore that, but maybe take a look through everything else. It's a short read. And then the only other thing I'm going to say in my packet is the notable meetings and events. You can see on the last page some of my activities throughout the month. I hope I don't take for granted that you guys know all those acronyms for some of those meetings. If you guys are ever looking through that, you're wondering what the heck things are, there are no bad questions. Contact me. I'd be happy to tell you about that committee or that organization and kind of what's going on in those. So otherwise, I'd be open for any questions.
Any questions or comments? Colin, go ahead.
I'll give you a comment. Mr. Nagel, welcome aboard. I went through the program that Aaron's organizing for you with the department heads, of course, 2 years ago. I found it very beneficial. I hope you do too. Everybody was well prepared. It was a really great thing. So thank you again, Aaron, for doing that again this time, and I hope you get a lot out of it.
All right, thanks. Anybody else? All right, let's move on to unfinished business. This is ordinance number 08-2023. This is an amendment to chapter 7.05, parent 4, the parking prohibited in certain specified places. This is the second reading. Justin, you still aboard?
Yep, I'm here, Mayor.
All right, go ahead.
So the memo that I had included in the first reading, page 77, so all that information is still there, including the one typo, not 223 Union Street, but Division Street. I added in the next page there, Aaron, a graphic, I guess to show a little bit more in detail about the configuration of State Street. So this is if you're looking southbound, the rec center on the left side. You can see what I have indicated there is, so in both directions, both northbound and southbound, we have a 12-foot travel lane, which is standard. On the right side is a 12-foot, is the right turn lane, and that is the lane that will be going away and we will be making into parking. This is comparable to what we did on Main Street from Badger up to Union Street, where we have the right or the east side of the block is parallel. The design was to have a 14-foot travel lane and a 10-foot wide parking lane, but altogether 24 feet, and that's exactly what we got here. So should be adequate space and should accommodate the parallel parking and doors being able to open without accidents and people moving freely to and from their vehicles. The other side, where parking currently is, we have even more space, so we don't see any issues as far as adding this. So, yeah, you can keep going down, Aaron. So the ordinance currently, before this approval, restricted parking on State Street from Badger up to Mill. What the ordinance change would do would just restrict parking from East Fulton up to Mill Street, which would then mean it'd be allowed from East Fulton down to Badger, and then the parking in this area would follow our standard parking, which in our code and overnight. So I think you're all familiar with it. I'll just open it up to questions. The actual ordinance is on page 81.
Okay, anybody have any questions? Comments? This is the second reading. Justin, did you hear any comments from the public at all?
I received none.
Okay. All right, so staff is recommend. Go ahead, Colin.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea too. Justin, last week or 2 weeks ago, Alderman Olson talked about semis making right turns here. And as this is going to be a change, now they're going to take right turns from what is currently the left lane. But I'm wondering if we can add some sort of maybe temporary signage, because I think people are going to try and sneak up next to semis and turn right, and there's going to be some sort of potential for that guy to get in trouble with someone pinching him off. I don't know that it's a big deal, but it might be helpful for us to have some sort of temporary, at least, signage saying, hey, don't use this lane now that we all used to use. That's just a comment. There's no action. I think this is a great idea.
Yeah, thank you. I was thinking maybe a vehicle should be parked there.
Yeah.
That might help to stop people.
Are you volunteering?
Designated parking for the Parks and Rec director?
I was volunteering your car. But, yeah. So, all right. Thank you, Colin. Justin, thanks. We're looking for a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Colin, second by, Paul Hagan, that we approve of ordinance number 08-2023. Any further discussion? Barb will call the roll.
Eric Olson.
Aye.
Lori Chestnut.
Aye.
Paul Hagan.
Aye.
Dave Peterson.
Aye.
Scott Perchatsky.
Aye.
Colin Dykstra.
Aye.
Paul Mayo.
Aye.
Corey Nagel.
Aye.
8 ayes, motion carried.
Thanks, Justin. Barb, thank you. So 9A, we took care of a little earlier in the meeting. 9B was tabled until our May 2nd meeting. So we are at 9C under new business, which is resolution number 1540. This is a resolution supporting application to the Land and Water Conservation Fund. And Laura, you're on for this one.
Thank you. I'm doing this on behalf of Greg Groman and the Parks and Rec Department, and I will go ahead and read. A resolution supporting application to the Land and Water Conservation Fund grant program. Whereas the City of Waupaca is installing new light fixtures at Lakeman Field in order to support safe, high-quality outdoor recreation at a public park in need of investment. And whereas the LWCF program provides funding to develop high-quality outdoor recreation facilities, and whereas the City of Waupaca's capital improvement plan has allocated up to $175,000 in matching grant dollars for the development of infield upgrades at Lakeman Field, and whereas the City of Waupaca has authorized the Director of Parks and Recreation to act on behalf of the City of Waupaca to submit an application, submit reimbursement claims along with necessary supporting documentation within 6 months of project completion date, and take necessary action to undertake, direct, and complete the approved project. And whereas the City of Waupaca will comply with all local, state, and federal rules, regulations, and ordinances relating to this project, and maintain the project in an attractive, inviting, and safe manner. Will keep the facility open to the general public during reasonable hours, consistent with the type of facility, and will obtain the State of Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources or Natural Park Service approval in writing before any change is made in the use of the project site. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Waupaca Common Council support an application to the State of Wisconsin LWCF program to provide up to $175,000 for the development of infield upgrades at Lakeman Field, Waupaca, Wisconsin.
Thank you, Laura. And Laura, as you said before, that is in our capital budget already, that dollar amount. So this is just putting it into words so that we can apply for that grant. All right, so actually what we're doing here, if you guys are okay with that, is approving this resolution. So it's being recommended that we approve this resolution.
Move to approve resolution number 1540.
Second.
Motion by Olson, second by Peterson, that we approve resolution number 1540. Any discussion? Go ahead, Paul.
I was just wondering if you could remind us what the potential for this land and water fund would be able to do for us. What we're applying for, I guess.
We're applying for the matching amount, $175,000, to help with the fundraising effort towards this project.
Any idea if how likely that would be?
Well, we did get it for the splash pad project, and because this is now 2 years down the road, in 2024 is when the capital improvement plan is allocated for this, and when we plan on conducting the project, it's a little more likely. Greg is still working on writing the grant now, so we don't know. You know, that comes with numerical numbers on if how much likelihood you are of getting it, and that's not yet completed.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
As we've heard a couple times about Greg, he's good though. So
he is good.
We got a good chance. So, any other discussion? Barb will call the roll.
Eric Olson,
Aye.
Lori Chestnut,
Aye.
Paul Hagan,
Aye.
Dave Peterson,
Aye.
Scott Perchatsky,
Aye.
Colin Dykstra,
Aye.
Paul Mayo,
Aye.
Corey Nagel.
Aye.
8 ayes, motion carried.
All right, Laura, thank you. Next up, we have a certified survey map for Christian Kane Ashby at 1126 Ware Street. Jarrett, that's you.
Thank you very much, Mayor. So the certified survey map can be found on page 84 of your packets. The certified survey map is for a parcel division, one parcel going to two. Part of the reason for this parcel division is to rezone lot 2 of the lot, which has a residential home on it. So the certified survey map is just a step in the process. The certified survey map 2 lots, they do meet all of the standards for the zoning districts that will be proposed for each of them. So staff would recommend approval.
All right. You heard Jarrett. We're looking for a motion to approve the certified survey map.
So move.
Motion by Chestnut.
Second.
Second by Prochatsky that we approve certified survey map for 1126 Weir Street. Any further discussion? Barbara, call the roll.
Colin Dykstra,
Aye.
Lori Chestnut,
Aye.
Paul Hagan,
Aye.
Scott Perchatsky,
Aye.
Dave Peterson,
Aye.
Paul Mayo,
Aye.
Corey Nagel,
Aye.
Eric Olson.
Aye.
8 ayes, motion carried.
All right, Jarrett, thank you. Next up, this is for the 2023 Main Street Flower Program contract. And before I turn this over to Aaron, I want to remind all of you all the great comments we got about the flowers on Main Street last year. Okay? So as Aaron brings this forward.
Thank you, Mayor Smith. Council members, my memo can be seen on page 87 of your packet. A little background, we've been doing this for 2 years. This will be the 3rd year. 2021, it was costs were coupled with the project costs. 2022, CDA passed through TIF 10 some help with the program, and then in 2023, when we worked through our budget planning process in the fall, we did budget $20,000 for this service, knowing that we would likely need additional funding and additional revenue sources to bridge any gaps. We did reach out in February for quotes, and you can see all of the vendors we reached out to: Chain of Lakes Home and Garden, Bonnie's Bloomers, Firefly Floral, Turner's Market, Barnwood Farms, Gravel Road Farms. And we only got one of those that said they had the capacity to do the project, and that was Chain of Lakes Home and Garden. You can see they came in at $25,000. You can see the breakdown there: labor and soils $5,000, plant materials $20,000. We're talking about planting from about Memorial Day weekend to typically it's mid-October. It comes out typically right before that Halloween event on Main. It should also be noted that there is some watering costs. That's a different contract outside of this. That would be approximately $8,000. So it does bring the total flower cost to about $32,000 for the year. Now, having said that, you already heard me talk about what we budgeted, the $20,000, and we're planning to get extra revenues. You heard Jared mention it earlier this meeting, and it is a meeting we were a part of last Thursday. We talked to some downtown business owners about the importance of making sure that we do secure extra revenues. Otherwise, the future of this will be discussed, in future budget processes if we can't show the value towards it. Or if we can't show that other people also see the value towards it through financial means. Another thing, I talked to Terry at the Chamber of Commerce. I am putting together a memo that'll be submitted tomorrow to the CVB officially for dollar amount, a request of $10,000. So there'll be a meeting at the end of this month to discuss that as well. So all in all, I'm really hoping that throughout the course of this year, our goal is to fundraise about $15,000, which would put our amount at 17, so underneath the $20,000 budgeted. I'm coming forward and asking for the approval for a contract that's over that, knowing that we'd be working towards that throughout 2023. Just to be, so everyone understands. So I guess, long story short, I guess the recommendation with all of that background would be to approve the service with Chain of Lakes Home and Garden for a cost not to exceed $25,000. And I would open it up to any questions.
I got a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
I'm just looking at the breakdown. It says labor and soil, $5,000. Are we using the same pots that are already there?
We are, and
they're full of soil already, right?
a lot of that soil has to be taken out and replaced because it's no good anymore. So they can use some of it, so there is some savings there, but not all of it. So they do have to.
Boy, that sounds like a
freshen
job. That's a lot of soil.
Mhm.
Okay, that's my question.
Yep.
Green thumb you don't have. So again, we're approving a contract, even though we've budgeted 20,000, but the plan is that we still will not go over the $20,000 that we have budgeted, but we do have a contract that is for 25,000, and we're going to find the funds through other areas. All right. So again, you're just approving the contract for $25,000, if you're okay with that. Go ahead.
What does that do with the 8,000 watering?
So it's not through Chain Link Someone Garden. That would be a separate contract, and that is, yeah, correct.
Okay.
Did Bonnie's Bloomers say why they didn't bid on it?
Yeah, they did not have the capacity, and they have a transition going on in their business right now.
Go ahead, Colin.
What, I guess this is quite subjective, but what is your feel that the downtown business owners will support this?
Yeah, that's a good question, Colin. I think that there will be donations. I think with every fundraiser that we look to, it's I'm often surprised one way or another on how it goes. Yeah. There's support for the flowers. I'll tell you that. When we talk about it in the placemakers meeting, they see value in it, obviously, in the downtown area. What that will amount to as far as dollars and cents, I couldn't even speculate. But I will say that we really haven't rolled out the fundraiser until now, this week, next week. So,
Yeah, I was just going to touch on that a little bit. So, actually, I am going to email out to all of you what the donor request letter, fundraising, all of that looks like. I encourage you to, if you know a business or an individual that would like to donate. We're not, I guess, through the downtown partnership. The ideas that kind of flowed through. This is an opportunity not only for the downtown businesses to participate, but it could also be the businesses that want to be just visible somewhere else other than their current location. So there could be a business over by Churchill Street or on Fulton Street, or even in one of the townships that would like to donate, kind of put their logo, put their name on a downtown that's highly trafficked, especially through the summer. So didn't really want to limit it to just the downtown. Wanted to really open it up, provide opportunities for all businesses in the surrounding area that would like to participate. So I would like to distribute it to all of you, as well as end of this week or beginning of next, we will be sending out this donor request letter to some distribution lists through the chamber, through the city, and then for the downtown businesses specifically, I do plan to go out next week and hand deliver, talk with them, get their comments in person, etc. So we'll distribute this letter in a couple of different ways, but again, feel free to distribute it in any way you guys see fit as well.
So, I know you have questions, but I just do want to say this. Our ultimate goal is, the city, we should still participate in the cost of those flowers, but our ultimate goal is, to have an equal share with everybody in the community on this too. And so we just felt like this year we would be cutting it off if we didn't go in this route, where we committed so much dollars to it, but then asked for donations to help cover that. So I think it's going to be a couple-year rollout, quite honestly, before we really see that number. I saw a bunch of hands still. Colin, you had another one, so I'll let you go.
I wanted to go ahead with, it sounded, Jared, like you were describing maybe a sponsorship or maybe some sort of advertising for each flower area along the Main Street area.
Yeah, when you see that letter, I'm sorry, Jarrett, you go.
No,
Yeah.
feel free. You can take it on whenever. So the intent is there are different donation levels, and our grant writer, who I reiterate is spectacular, put together these different levels with the names of seed, bud, blossom, gardener, sunshine donor, etc. So really fun plays on them. But the intent is, depending on your donor level, you will get a recognition in the pots. We're still narrowing out exactly how we're going to do that. You know, we don't want to just put little paper things in there that people could just grab.
Yeah.
Want to be more standardized and sturdy, but the intent is that anyone who donates would have the opportunity to be recognized through newsletter, Facebook, social media, and then also have a plaque physically out in the pots. So when people are out and about on downtown, they could look in one of the pots and see that this pot has been sponsored by, you know, so-and-so business, so-and-so family, you know, et cetera. So just allowing for the opportunity to show that, you know, these businesses and these people are really in favor of our downtown, making it look beautiful, as well as these, you know, beautiful flower pots that they're sponsoring. So it's a great opportunity to beautify our community as well as advertise their business, family, or any other organization.
Well said, Jared. Somebody else? Dave, go ahead.
I was going to ask, Jared just answered it, but in all your talk, you kept saying businesses. Private individuals could donate as well.
Absolutely.
Certainly.
Yep.
Just so they're aware of that too. Yeah.
Dave, I'll jot you down for the sunshine donor.
That's 50% of all costs, by the way.
Anybody else? I don't even have an answer to that one. Colin, go ahead.
I guess I'll just have a comment. They are great flowers. I don't think there's any doubt about it. And to the extent that the city has them on their property, namely in front of the city hall and the library, I think the city should continue to fund those things. And I think we're moving in the right direction by asking the city businesses and whoever's being supported or you know, recognized or and beautifying their storefront to contribute to that. I think some of our citizens will be concerned if we keep funding this to a level that isn't commensurate with the flowers that are in front of a public facility. So I hope that that we or this organization can get the funding so that it gets to be the point where the beneficiaries are paying for it as opposed to all the taxpayers.
Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
You know, if we're going to do this every year, which I guess it would be neat to see this every year, do you think it would be possible to maybe just have a contest and say, I don't know how many pots we have, but to say adopt a pot, right? And make it a contest and have some money involved, say $500 first prize, and then whoever wants to beautify one of these pots, hopefully we can get them all done, and then we can have prizes, and it can be a pride thing. Now, the watering would probably be difficult. We could probably still, you know, pay for the watering, but we're going to have to come up with these monies every year. Maybe we can figure out, think outside the box a little bit, come up with something that would be way cheaper.
Yeah.
And I'll also note the intent of the donations is also to be a 3-year ongoing donation. And donations would also be tax deductible. So, benefit to businesses. I just wanted to toss out there.
All right. Anybody want to make a motion that we approve this agreement with Channel Lakes Home and Garden?
So move.
Motion by Chestnut.
Second.
Second by Hagan, that we approve entering into an agreement with Channel Lakes Home and Garden for a cost not to exceed $25,000. Any further discussion? Barbara, call the roll.
Eric Olson,
Aye.
Corey Nagel,
Aye.
Paul Mayo,
Aye.
Dave Peterson,
Aye.
Scott Berchatsky,
Aye.
Paul Hagan,
Aye.
Lori Chestnut,
Aye.
Colin Dykstra.
Aye.
8 ayes, motion carried.
All right, thank you, Barb. Next up, we have, and Aaron talked about this before, but this is more formal now. These are the proposed changes to the city ordinance, chapter 1.03, appointed officials, and 1.04, boards and commissions. It is our first reading tonight, and again, since we do have a new member on our council, I want to make sure that everybody understands that when we have ordinances, we do 2 readings. And normally, they're at 2 separate meetings. Almost always. So the first reading, we just get information on it, and then at the second reading, which will be the second meeting that we bring this forward, then we would actually vote on it if we so choose to do that. So, Aaron, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Council members, this memo starts on page 92 of your packet, and you've heard me talk about the new committees, specifically the public engagement and the personnel, several times now. But I am going to focus on kind of what I found when we looked at what do we have to do to really add these committees. And we looked at chapter 1.03 and 1.04 in our city code. That is 1.03 is our appointed officials section, and 1.04 is our boards and commissions. When looking at that and looking at potentially adding these committees in the language that would support them, really notice that over time, we just haven't updated that ordinance to reflect the actions that have been taken over the course of years in how we operate and how we govern. So you'll see this coming forward as basically cleaning up who our appointed officials are right now from a staff member standpoint, and cleaning up our boards and commissions and committees and how we operate. Honestly, this kind of brought to my attention, there was a lot of things that need to be changed. And I know this year one of our big projects is something the Personnel Committee is going to be working on, and that is an update to the employee handbook. I think once that project is done, I would like to have a serious conversation about looking at a code update to making sure that all these things are cleaned up throughout our chapters. But going back to just these 2 sections at this time, I'm just going to give a summary of what we're kind of looking to do with these amendments. And obviously, bullet point 1, update our current roster of appointed positions. Bullet point 2, removal of the following boards and commissions and committees, which have been inactive for several years. One of those that we'd be looking to remove from the ordinance, which has not been active, is the Wellhead Protection Commission. Number 2, the Cable Television Board. Number 3, the Water Commission. And number 4, the Sewerage Commission. Those are all in our code. I think you can tell probably 3 of those things we're going to be covering some very similar topics in one of the newly created committees, and that would be the Water and Sewer Board. So I'll jump right to that. Proposed creation of the following boards, commissions, and committees. Water and Sewer Board, which I just mentioned, the Personnel Committee, and the Public Engagement Committee. Those would all be new to our ordinance, and they would all be new to how we do business, at least recently. Number 3, or the next bullet point, this wouldn't be a new committee, but it would be a substantial amendment to what is currently in there. We have currently have an Emergency Planning Commission, I believe it's called, in our current code. Be looking to make an amendment and make that an Emergency Management Committee. This is something really I've had on my list since COVID, and kind of reinvigorating that Emergency Management Committee, updating our plan. In the past, the way it was structured, we ended up not having meetings a lot because there needed to be a quorum. I don't think that maybe makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think even if there's not a quorum, it's a large committee. We're toning it down a little bit, getting rid of some of the representatives. But it's a working committee. We're not probably taking a lot of official action, if that makes sense. So that's a little bit of the differences in how that may look. Some of the ones that we got rid of, I believe representatives from Red Cross was one, and a couple others. That does not mean that they can't come, that they're not invited, right? It's an open meeting. We will absolutely invite everybody that would be pertinent to the conversation. Actually, I know we have 2 directors in this room that said, hey, we have an interest in being on that committee, Park and Rec director and library director. The committee was getting so big that I said, those aren't typical positions that would be on a committee like this in a municipality, but you guys are invited to come to any of the meetings. And then one thing we did with these amendments is we organized chapter 1.04, which is that boards, committees, and commissions, really by boards, committees, and commissions. So you can see that. The other thing I want to note is that committees can be created at any time by the mayor, appointed by the mayor. A lot of times committees are working committees, right? They might have a task like we had a deer management committee, which resulted in a committee working for several months, and then it's kind of decommissioned. The difference with these new committees is that it's not the plan to decommission these. These are going to be working committees, and they'll always be working on something for the foreseeable future. We don't have an end time for them. So the other thing I want to note, you can see obviously one of the documents, Jared's much better at this, but there's a red line document and there is a clean document. You'll notice like Plan Commission, Library Board, some of those have crosses through them in the red line document. That just means that they got moved. That does not mean Plan Commission is gone from the ordinance. Some of the other ones that I mentioned are gone. Wellhead Protection Commission, Sewerage Commission, Water Commission, etc. We've talked about the purpose of the Personnel Committee. We've talked about the purpose of the Public Engagement Committee. I'm going to give a little bit of insight on the purpose of the Water and Sewer Utility Board. The Water and Sewer Utility Board, we're really just looking for them to be responsible for the financial oversight of the water and sewer utilities. Utilities function different than our general fund. They're treated as enterprise funds, more along the lines of a business. The way that accounting happens for those utilities is different than for our general fund. So we just thought it made a lot of sense to not kind of have the conversations as they're all the same, but have just a separate group looking at those utilities. Thought we could make some improvements there. Let's see here. Lost my next train of thought. Well, that's a summary of what we're looking to accomplish. This is a first reading. We're not voting on it tonight, as Mayor said. I guess while I'm trying to figure out what I was going to say next, I'd love to open it up to any questions.
Do you have any questions? Again, I think I said this at the last meeting, but it's probably important to say that these committees are set up they're set up so that they make recommendations to the council. So you are not losing any control at the council level, but they'll be making recommendations instead of us having to go through the whole detail. They'll go through the detail and then make recommendations to us.
I do remember what I was going to say.
Shoot. Yeah, go ahead, Aaron.
So that's actually something you and I talked about. And one thing you do not see on here, but we did discuss, you will notice that we actually appointed a council member. It was Dimitri to the Friends of Mirror and Shadow Lake. He had an interest in being on the Friends of Mirror and Shadow Lake. As you guys know, you vote on an inland lakes budget every year, which actually has taxing authority. What typically happens is that our inland lakes budget goes largely to execute plans tied to the efforts of the Friends of Mirror and Shadow Lake. The inland lakes district is meant to protect all of our waterways, not just Mirror and Shadow Lake. So that means the rivers that run through our city, that means the mill ponds that are in our city. Obviously, we have dams on some of those mill ponds. I mean, that is not to take anything away. The Friends of Mirror and Shadow Lake do incredible work, and it's awesome that they are as proactive as they are. But we did kind of want some feedback from the council on that would be another potential for another committee, an inland lakes committee, that would take a look at all of the inland waters rather than just focusing on Mirror and Shadow Lake. So I think, Mayor, if I'm not mistaken, maybe looking for some feedback, but either now or between now and the second reading.
Yeah, that would be nice if we would. Thanks, Aaron, for doing that. As you know, normally in the month of August, we have that Inland Lakes Commission meeting, and the commissioners are city council members. A budget is usually put together by either our Director of Public Works or our Parks and Rec Director, with help from our city administrator and our finance director. but we don't do much with it as commissioners. And so it would be nice to have a separate group of commissioners that do make recommendations to council on this item. We're not trying to take any, as Aaron said, take anything away from the Shadow and Mirror Lake, but we want to make sure that everybody understands that this is for all of the waterways within our city. And we think it's pretty darn important that we maintain those well. So I think we could do a better job if we have a separate commission that handles that. That's just my thought, and Aaron and I had a discussion on that. So you can make comments now or let us know what you think, but that will be probably another one that you'll see in the near future here too. Okay? So that was just the first reading. Expect that we have that discussion at the next meeting in May. All right, moving on. We have some reports that we have to approve. The first one is the election canvass report number 1620. That's on page 114 and 115 of your packet. Barb did report on this already. We would just need a motion to approve to place this on file.
So move.
Motion by Chestnut.
Second.
Second by Prochaski, that we approve elections canvass report number 1620. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against, say no. Motion carried. License report number 1621. This is an operator's license. Of course, we all know this better as bartender's licenses, but in our code it says operator. We would be looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Peterson.
Second.
Second by Dykstra, that we approve license report number 1621. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against, say no. Next up is license report number 1622. This is taxi driver's licenses.
Move to approve.
Motion by Olson.
Second.
Second by Dykstra, that we approve license report 1622, taxi driver's licenses. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against, say no. Motion carried. Nothing under the 30-minute thing tonight. Communications and recommendations of the mayor, I really do not have anything tonight. So unless you guys have something else you want to talk about, we'd be looking for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Hagan, second by Olson, that we adjourn till our next regular city council meeting on Tuesday, May 2nd, 2023, subject to call. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against, say no. Motion carried. We're adjourned at 8:18 p.m. Have a great night. Drive safe.